Everything seemed perfect, the balls, the glamour, the whispers behind closed doors. But in episode 7, the truth crashed through Nan's world like a thunderstorm. Her parents, once seen as noble, respectable, and touchable, are suddenly at the center of a scandal so big, it threatens to tear her entire life apart. What secret have they been hiding? And why is justice finally catching up with them? In the last episode, we saw Nan standing at a crossroads, not just in her romantic life, but in her very sense of identity. Her relationship with Theo is already strained, made even more complicated by Guy's lingering presence. But what no one expected was the slow unraveling of her family's carefully hidden truth. Nan has always been portrayed as the outsider among the rich American debutantes, but now it seems that even her place in her own family is uncertain. Let's rewind just a bit to remember how the tension started to build. Nan, unlike her more traditionally minded friends, has always been someone who questions the rules. She doesn't just smile and stay silent, she pushes back. She's brave, outspoken, and often too curious for her own good. And that curiosity is what begins to lead her down a dangerous path. One that starts with a few strange comments and ends with a devastating discovery. At a dinner party in episode 6, a small remark was made about Nan's family coming into wealth quite suddenly. At first, this seems like just idle gossip, the kind that's always floating around high society. But Nan notices something different in the way people look at her, not just envy, but suspicion. Later, she overhears a conversation that wasn't meant for her ears. Her mother's name is mentioned in a way that doesn't sound like praise. Instead of compliments, there are murmurs about secrets, debts, and old betrayals. It's at this point that Nan starts asking questions, not just to others, but to herself. What don't I know about my parents? Why have I never heard about how they really made their money? Why does everyone else seem to know something I don't? The tension gets worse when Nan tries to speak with her mother directly. The conversation is cold, guarded, and full of half-answers. Her mother brushes off her questions with vague responses, like, "We did what we had to," or "That's not something you need to worry about." But of course, Nan is worried, because every time she digs a little deeper, she finds more cracks in the story she was raised on. Then there's her father, a man who has always been distant, but now seems downright nervous. He fumbles through explanations when Nan brings up their past, and even slips up by referring to someone from their past life that Nan has never heard of. When she presses him, he quickly changes the subject, but by now, the damage is done. Nan knows they're hiding something, and it's something big. As the episode moves forward, the weight of suspicion grows heavier. Nan starts to notice that her parents no longer receive the warm welcome they once did. Their names are left off invitation lists. Friends begin to avoid them. Whispers turn into stares. And still, Nan gets no answers. Her parents are trying to maintain the illusion, but it's starting to fall apart, piece by piece. By the end of this section, we're left with one haunting truth. Something is very wrong in the family that Nan once thought she understood, and she's not the only one starting to see it. Nan knows something is wrong, and she's done waiting for half-truths. In episode 7, her quiet frustration turns into active investigation. One moment changes everything. A letter hidden at the bottom of an old trunk in her mother's dressing room. Nan wasn't looking for it. She was looking for answers, yes, but what she finds is far worse than anything she imagined. The letter is dated from years ago, written in panic, not love. It's addressed to her mother from a man Nan has never heard of, a man who refers to himself as the original partner. The contents of the letter talk about covering up the records, moving funds, and getting out before the press finds out. At first, it doesn't make sense. But then Nan sees the names of properties, towns she's heard her parents talk about, the ones they claimed were family investments. The letter makes it clearer. The fortune that gave Nan her lifestyle wasn't earned through success or smart deals. It was stolen through fraud, manipulation, and betrayal. Asterisk her. Heart sinks. All her life, she believed her family worked hard to climb the social ladder. She believed in the narrative of perseverance and luck. But now she realizes it was all built on lies. Her parents didn't build a future, they destroyed others' futures to make their own. Asterisk Nan doesn't confront them right away. Instead, she visits an old family friend, someone who had grown distant over the years. This woman, once close to her mother, fills in the rest of the picture. She explains how Nan's father was involved in a land scheme back in America, selling property with forged documents, promising development projects that never existed, and pocketing the money. Her mother, she wasn't just a bystander, she was the one who charmed investors, convinced them to sign, and made sure nothing traced back to them. They left America not for a fresh start, but to escape the consequences. Asterisk it hits Nan like a wave. That's why they came to England. That's why her mother is always watching what people say. That's why her father avoids old acquaintances. Everything was a strategy, not just for survival, but for reinvention. Asterisk the worst part? The people they hurt, families lost everything. Some ended up in poverty. A few even tried to take legal action, but the case was dropped when Nan's parents mysteriously disappeared overseas. Now it all makes sense. The wealth, the silence, the shame her parents never talk about. It wasn't just embarrassment. It was guilt. Asterisk back at home, Nan quietly starts collecting more evidence. She looks through ledgers, documents, bank records. And the more she finds, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just a dark chapter in their past. It's something that's still affecting people today. The money they took didn't just vanish. It left a trail, and someone is finally ready to follow it. Asterisk in the final moments of this section, Nan receives a letter addressed to her, not her parents. It's from a law office in New York. The name on the envelope matches the one from the first letter she found. Inside is a simple message. Asterisk you deserve to know the truth. Justice will come. One way or another. Asterisk and just like that, the story shifts again. It's no longer about what Nan's parents did. It's about what's coming for them. Asterisk everything changes once the truth starts spreading. What was once a quiet suspicion now becomes public knowledge. The letter Nan received was not the only one sent. Copies went to members of the aristocracy, business associates, and worst of all, to the press. A scandal of this size couldn't stay hidden forever. And now it's everywhere. Asterisk it begins with a subtle shift. At a charity event, the first signs of social collapse appear. Nan's mother, always the center of attention, is suddenly ignored. Whispers follow her like shadows. Her father tries to speak to old acquaintances, but they brush him off. No one says anything directly, not yet. But in high society, silence is its own kind of punishment. The invitations stop. The glances become cold. The doors that were once wide open now slam shut. Asterisk for Nan, this is both heartbreaking and clarifying. She watches her parents try to hold on to the life they built, but it's slipping away fast. Her mother still wears her pearls, still acts as if nothing has changed, but her eyes betray her. There's panic there now. Her father, meanwhile, grows distant, retreating into his study and avoiding all conversation. It's like watching two people drown in their own secrets. Asterisk, but social rejection is just the beginning. Asterisk, a journalist appears at their estate, bold, unapologetic, armed with files and names. He isn't there for gossip. He's writing a piece on financial corruption among American elites in England, and Nan's family is the centerpiece. He wants a comment. Her parents say nothing, but Nan. She says 3 words. Asterisk, it's all true. Asterisk, that moment changes everything. The story runs the next morning. Headlines scream across newspapers. Asterisk, scandal across the sea. How the St. George's built an empire of lies. Asterisk the article lists the names of victims. Quotes former investors. Shows legal documents. And at the very bottom, it says, asterisk the daughter, Miss Nan St. George, has confirmed the authenticity of these claims. Asterisk Nan didn't do it out of revenge. She did it because it was right. But the impact is massive. Her parents receive formal notices from American courts. Investigators arrive. Assets are frozen. And suddenly, everything they own is under threat. Asterisk even the English elite, who once looked the other way for the sake of good company, turn on them. A duke who once courted Nan refuses to be seen near her. Lady Marable, her mother's old friend, publicly condemns them in a letter to the Times. The very world they worked so hard to enter is now the one pushing them out with force. Asterisk behind closed doors, the family begins to fall apart. Nan's father blames her for speaking out. Her mother begs her to retract the statement. But Nan stands firm. Asterisk greater than you didn't just lie, she tells them. You hurt people, and you are never going to make it right. Asterisk that sentence becomes the emotional turning point of the episode. Nan isn't just angry, she's grieving. Not for the wealth, not for the reputation, but for the family she thought she had. For the people she believed her parents were. As the episode nears its end, we see the consequences roll in like a storm. A lawyer stands in the family's drawing room, explaining what might come next: charges, trials, public hearings, possibly even prison. And still, Nan's parents act like they can fix it, write a check, call in a favor, disappear again. But this time, it's different. Asterisk Nan isn't alone anymore. Several former victims have come forward, some of them encouraged by her words. One man says he's been waiting 15 years for someone to finally speak the truth. Now they're ready to fight, and justice, once buried by power and money, is finally rising to the surface. Asterisk we end this section with Nan standing at a window, looking out at the world that once seemed so grand, so untouchable. It's still there at the parties, the gowns, the titles, but now she sees through it. And for the first time, she's not ashamed. She knows the truth. And she's not afraid to face it. Asterisk the scandal might have exploded in the public eye. But the emotional fallout continues behind closed doors. In the days after the story breaks, Nan finds herself walking through a world that looks the same on the outside. Same gardens, same carriages, same lavish halls, but nothing feels the same anymore. Her family is now seen not as part of the elite, but as a warning, a cautionary tale whispered at parties. The price of lies finally paid. Asterisk, but this isn't just a story about disgrace. It's a story about change. Asterisk Nan, once seen as the quiet rebel of her circle, now becomes something more powerful, a truth-teller in a world addicted to appearances. She's not admired for her money anymore. She's respected for her courage. Her friends, especially the ones who always suspected there was more to her, begin to rally around her. Not everyone, of course. Some vanish, trying to avoid guilt by association. But others stand by her side. Conchita, for instance, fiercely defends Nan in public, calling out the hypocrisy of those who once praised the family and now pretend to be above them. Asterisk more importantly, Nan starts to find her voice, not just in private, but in public. In one memorable scene, she's invited to speak at a women's salon hosted by a progressive duchess. The room is full of people who once dismissed her. This time, she's not there to impress anyone. She tells her story. She explains what her parents did and why she had to step away from it. She talks about the danger of silence, of pretending everything's fine just to protect wealth or status. Asterisk her words strike a nerve, because many in that room have been complicit in some way, ignoring wrongdoings to protect their own comfort. Nan's honesty doesn't just expose a scandal. It exposes a system built on looking the other way. Asterisk meanwhile, back at home, her parents' world continues to fall apart. Lawyers come and go. Former allies send their regrets. There are talks of restitution, money that will have to be paid back. Reputation, of course, is beyond saving. Her father begins to wither under the pressure, while her mother tries desperately to maintain control. But Nan, she's no longer trying to clean up their mess. She's building something new. By the final part of the episode, Nan is preparing to leave, not as a runaway, and not in shame, but in strength. She's been invited to join a reform group based in London, focused on exposing financial abuses and protecting vulnerable investors. It's not the path she ever imagined, but it feels right. Before she goes, she visits one of the families harmed by her parents' scheme. They live modestly now, a far cry from the life they once had. The woman who answers the door doesn't smile, but she lets Nan speak. Nan doesn't make excuses. She doesn't offer charity. She offers the truth. I can't undo what they did, she says. But I can make sure no one forgets it. That moment isn't dramatic. There's no embrace, no forgiveness. But there's a shift, a kind of quiet acceptance. Nan isn't there to make herself feel better. She's there because it's the right thing to do. We end the episode with Nan boarding a train alone. Outside the window, the countryside rolls by, a symbol of the world moving forward. She holds no titles now, no protection from a famous name. But she has something more powerful, a sense of purpose. She looks out the window and whispers to herself, let the truth be louder than the lie. And just like that, the girl who once danced in ballrooms full of secrets becomes a woman determined to bring them into the light.